Punching. I love punching. I don't know about you. Punching is one of those things that's kind of up there with frog fishing for me. I would say it's like frog fishing, punching is about right there. It's one of those things that gets me so jacked up that I just start shaking all over. I love to catch punching fish, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to do a total fish catch breakdown about punching. Now, the reason I decided to do that is because I put out my one box to conquer the fall the other day. If you guys have not watched that video, I've it linked up above down below. Go check it out. It's a video that you guys always love to watch along with these total fish catch breakdowns. And in that video, the number one comment that I got was about punching and how people had either never done it, they were too nervous to do it, or they had done it and not had a ton of success. And so I thought, you know what, this fish catch is a perfect opportunity to kind of talk about what I look for, some of the do's and don'ts so that you have more success fishing, and just kind of give a general breakdown of the gear that you guys need to go out and catch some punching fish. And so I am jacked up today because I get to talk about punching with you guys. Now, if you're new to my channel, I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your busy day to come check out this video, because you are going to help hopefully grow this community. Go down there, hit that subscribe button if you love bass fishing. That's what this channel is about. I fish from the boat, the bank, the kayak. I fish ponds, creeks, anywhere that I can go catch fish. I want to try to go do it. So if you love fishing, please hit that subscribe button for me. Help to grow this community. Also, go down in the comment section and let me know if you're new to my channel. I would love to get to know you guys down in the comment section. Now, let's get into this video. So before we get into the footage, let's kind of lay out the scenario. Obviously, we are moving into fall. Whether the temperatures outside are telling us that we are or not, the days are starting to get shorter, the grass is starting to top out, those fish are starting to gradually make those moves into shallower water, following the bait fish, following the bluegills. They're getting ready to do the whole full-blown fall transition and get ready for winter. Now, in my area, when this happens, the grass gets really, really thick, and if you're lucky and they don't spray it or chop it up or do something crazy to it, you can have some really, really awesome grass fishing opportunities. And so that's what I went looking for the other day. Now, where I'm at is up in a creek arm. The reason I went up into this creek arm is because this creek is a natural creek that flows into the lake, and so that water is just a little bit cooler up there in that creek compared to the main lake. And so the grass that I'm fishing is going to be just a little bit further along. You're going to start finding out more topped out grass, those grass mats that already have the cheese on top, those popping grass mats, all those things that you look for whether you're frog fishing or punching to go and be successful. And so that's why I was up in this creek arm. I was looking at about a 75 to 77 degree water temperature depending on where I was at, whether I was a little bit deeper or a little bit shallower. Bluebird sky, zero wind, zero current, just high skies, very, very still kind of day. And really, when you're fishing the grass, that isn't going to hurt you very much, because that grass creates an opportunity for those fish to get away from that sun and to use that grass as protection. And that's really, really important to look for. What you're looking for is that grass that is topped out and are already got as tall as it can, is created almost a canopy or a hollow spot underneath that grass. When that happens, those bass start to use that area. The reason for that is there's a ton of oxygen, there's a ton of shade, there's a ton of cover, and there's a ton of bait. When it starts to hollow out, it starts to attract all these different microorganisms, these little bugs. That attracts the minnows, which attract the bluegill, which attract the bass. So if the food's there, the oxygen there, and the shelter's there, that's where those bass want to be. It's just those self-preservation instincts kicking in. And so it's a great opportunity, again, to either go frog it or punch it. Depending on the day, it's going to be either one or the other. What I've found a lot of the times is when we have cold fronts, post-cold fronts, when we have kind of adverse conditions, or we have those really high pressure days, high sky days, those days that they don't really eat normally, that's when they're going to really tuck into that grass and use that grass really, really well. And on those days that, you know, they're more active, they're more willing to feed, that's when they're going to start moving through that grass and be more willing to eat up. And so this is one of those days where I knew the punch and bite was probably going to be my best option to catch a fish. And so that's kind of what I was looking for. I'm looking for that good grass, that grass that is ready to be fished. One big indicator of this is using your ears. I tell people all the time, listen to the grass. If that grass is popping and it's crackling and it sounds like you just poured milk on a fresh bowl of Rice Krispies, that's the mat you're looking for, because what that is those bluegills and those bait fish actually up in that mat eating the bugs, eating those little microorganisms, and that is going to attract those bass, because while those bluegills, those bait fish, all those other little prey items are busy and preoccupied eating themselves, that's when the bass has the best opportunity to go up there and ambush that fish and get a meal itself. And so really, really listen, and obviously looking at it. If you can see that it's matted out, you can see it's an area that looks good, go through and fish it. But the most important thing is, if it's matted, listen for that snap, crackle, and that pop. That's going to be the way you know it's the best area to be. Now, let's get into this fish catching footage. Now, you guys can see here, I reel in and I simply flip that weight in there. Now, I didn't make a big dramatic cast. I didn't pitch it way up in the sky. I didn't do anything. The reason for that is I'm fishing an ounce weight by Beast Coast. I've got all the weight I need there to get into that grass, and so that 1 ounce weight is going to be really all I need to get in and out of the grass where I'm fishing. Now, sometimes you got to bump it up. Sometimes you got to go 1.25 ounces, 1.5 ounces, heck, sometimes even 2 ounces to get through the top of those mats. It's all dependent on the grass that you're fishing. The one thing you want to kind of remember and focus on is you want to go as light as possible. And so I started with 1 ounce, and the grass that I was fishing pretty much that whole day, the 1 ounce was able to get in and out very, very easy. And so that's what I stuck with. Just go as light as possible when you're punching. Now back it up here just a little bit. You guys can see I free spool this line, and you'll see just a little bit of a pause actually when that bait hits the top of that grass mat. And what that is that weight is working its way down through that grass mat, and then it breaks through and it starts to drop. And you guys can see I just free spool it, engage the reel, and pick up on it. Right here, that fish already had that bait. I thought it was a piece of grass or that I was hung up on something, but that fish already had that bait. What happened was that fish reacted to the bait. When you're fishing the big 1 ounce, 1.25 ounces, 1.5 ounce size weights, those baits are going to drop extremely fast. Even when you're fishing a bait like this, is the Reaction Innovations Spicy Beaver. It's got big flanges. Usually it would slow things like jigs and Texas rigs down. Even when you're fishing those big weights are going to make those baits drop really, really fast. So really what you're getting out of those fish is a reaction bite. This isn't really one of those bites where you're going to like finesse them out of a mat. Sometimes you can fish the bottom of the mat, the middle part of the mat, and then the top of the mat and get them to eat. But for the most part, they're going to eat that bait on the fall. They're going to react to it because it looks like a dime bluegill, a bait fish, something running. You're just getting that reaction bite. So before that bait ever hit the bottom, that fish had it. I pick up and I feel that pressure, and I think, well, I've just got a piece of grass, but then I feel it pull back. Now what's really important here is you'll see in this hook set, I don't slack line this fish. That is super, super important. So what that means is, as I reeled down, I felt the pressure of the fish, and then I just picked up on it, setting the hook and not letting there be any slack in that line. What will happen if you slack line hook set with the punching rig is that big weight will actually blow their mouth open, especially when you get into that 1.25 ounces, 2 ounce range. If you slack line hook set them, that weight will hit the front of those fish's mouth and just blow it open, and you'll lose them. I found this out the hard way. I was punching, one of the first times I ever went punching, I was slackline hook setting every single fish, and I lost probably 10 fish before I figured out what I was doing wrong. And what would happen is I would either miss them completely, or I would hook them and I wouldn't get a good hook in them, and they would come off while I was fighting them. So very, very important, do not slack line hook set when you are punching. That's really where your rod and your line come into play. You know, the power of the line, the power of the rod is really going to help you to get the hook into those fish, and it's not really going to be the hook set. But let's go back again. Look in here, you guys can see I reel down, I feel the pressure of that fish, I just pick straight up on it, making sure there is no slack or as minimal amount of slack in my line as possible, and I lean into this fish. Now I'm going to let you listen to this here. Oh ho ho. There we go. Yeah? Yep. Come on. Atta boy. Heck yeah. Hear that braid whine, and I love that freaking sound. But you guys can see, I put pressure on the fish and I just keep pressure on the fish. The only reason I'm reeling my reel is just to take up the little bit of slack that's coming with the fish as I'm pulling it out of that mat. The big thing that you need to remember is when you hit these fish, it's not like you're gonna be trying to, you know, fight them next to the boat or turn your rod one way or turn your rod the other way or do some kind of dramatic thing like you're on camera. You need to hit them. You need to hit them hard, you need to put the pressure on them, and you don't take the pressure on them until they're out of that grass, because the deal with that grass, whether it's a 2-pounder or a 10-pounder, those fish get you marred up in that grass and you're going to have a very, very high percentage of not getting that fish into the boat. So what you want to do is you want to use the power of your rod and your line to get those fish out of here. So let's talk about that really, really quick. 65-pound braid straight, no leader, nothing. It's 65 pounds straight braid on a 7.5-foot heavy Lew's Super Grip rod. This series of rods was designed for heavy applications, you know, heavy flipping, frogging, that kind of stuff. The grip is designed to have this topped off grip here. It almost looks like a golf club or a putter handle, and what it is that rod can't torque or twist in your hand when you set the hook on them, and so it's an awesome rod for that punching application and all those kinds of applications like that. But 65-pound braid and that heavy rod are really what's going to help you. The power of those two things is what's going to help you to get that fish out of that mat, and that's really what you need to rely on when you're setting the hook and when you're fighting the fish. Let the rod, let the line, let the pressure that you're putting on that fish bring them out of that mat. So you guys can see here, I keep the pressure on him. Here he comes out and I put him into the boat, and as you guys can see here, this fish absolutely stuffed that bait. Again, it was the deal where I never actually felt that fish bite. That bass had that bait long before it hit the bottom, and it was just sitting there. And when I picked up on him, he was like, nah, you ain't taking that bait away from me. He started to swim the other direction. He took some slack out. I reeled down, took some slack out, hit that fish, put the pressure on him, and got him coming out of that grass mat. And really, in full, that's the entire fish catch right there. You know, you need to remember those key things. Don't slackline them. Make sure that you're fishing that braid. The braid is super important, and the reason for that is, number one, there's zero stretch, like I said, so you're going to be able to get that big flipping hook in their head. But number two, it cuts through that grass really well. Whereas fluorocarbon wants to dig into the grass, that braid in combination with the power of that rod is going to cut through that grass and allow you to get that fish coming out of there. And so the braid is super important, and that's something that you need to remember. Big heavy rod, big heavy braid, big heavy weights. You know, it's one of those deals when you go big or you go home. You gotta go big, you gotta go heavy with everything in grass fishing, just because when you hook a fish, again, doesn't matter if he's 2 pounds or 10, they get you down in that grass, they get you marred up in that grass. You're gonna lose them a lot of the times, but if you got them hooked good, you can bring a lot of grass with them, you can bring a lot of fish with them, and if you've got the power of the braid and the heavy rod, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be able to get those fish out of that grass. But yeah, guys, one of my favorite ways to catch a fish, one of my favorite techniques in the whole entire world. It literally, like I said, it is like buck fever for me when I get to catch one on a punching rig. I absolutely love it, just because you guys know me. If you've been around the channel for any amount of time, I love frogging, I love heavy braid, I love heavy rods, I love smacking them in the face. I love that fight. It's just a ton of fun. So go try it out. Go see what you can do. See if you can go punching. Get your big heavy flipping stick out, get you some braid, get you some heavy weights, and just go experiment. It is a ton of fun, and that's all that you can do. I've gave you every tool that I got. I've taught you everything that I know. Now you got to go out and put the work in and hopefully catch some fish. But as always, guys, thank you for watching. Questions or comments, you know where to go leave them. Also, go down in the description. I'll have links to all of my partners. You can check out every bit of the gear that I talked about in today's video down below. Go check it out. It is links to Tackle Warehouse. Those links will help me out if you decide to purchase anything. But as always, you guys are sweet, and thank you for watching. I guess they lived on the pads.
You need to take you a bottle of nose spray.
Oh ho ho. There we go.
Yeah?
Yep. Come on.
Atta boy.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
That's fun, eh?
Yeah, it is. Dadgummit, he ate it too.
That's a thick one.
I mean, he ate it. All right, back up, because where there's one, there should be more than one. I gotta get down in there and get that thing. Lord have mercy, he ate the heck out of that thing. There we go. Heck yeah. Ain't a giant, but look at him. He's a little chublin. I mean, a little chublin. Heck yeah, that was fun.